I never imagined that turning 67 would feel like standing on the edge of a cliff, staring at a life I no longer recognized as mine. My name is Evelyn, and for decades, I had lived for others. My children, my husband who left too soon, my job as a school administrator, the neighbors, the charities I quietly supported. But over the last few years, it became painfully clear that the people I had devoted my life to were not the people I thought they were. It started with small things. My daughter, Clara, who I had supported through 2 divorces, began arriving at my house with barely concealed contempt, making snide remarks about my cooking, my clothes, even the way I walked. My son, James, once a sweet boy who used to read bedtime stories to my grandchildren, now barely spoke to me without a hint of irritation. I brushed it off at first, telling myself it was age, stress, misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew something had shifted, and it wasn't just them. It was me, the woman they no longer respected. The breaking point came when I discovered a series of emails between James and Clara planning to sell my house while I was away on a short trip. Not just sell, liquidate everything I had worked for. They didn't even try to hide it. "She's too old to care," one message read. "By the time she figures it out, the deal will be done." I felt the world tip beneath me. Years of love, trust, and devotion reduced to a few lines on a screen. I could have confronted them immediately, could have yelled, cried, begged, but I didn't. I sat quietly in my study, heart pounding, until a plan began to form, one that would require patience, cunning, and the kind of precision I had never thought I possessed. I realized I had spent too many years sacrificing myself for people who had no intention of valuing me. If I wanted to survive this, I would have to become invisible and watch, waiting for the perfect moment. For the next month, I meticulously gathered evidence. Hidden cameras in the living room, discreet audio recorders, digital backups of every message, every plan, every insult they thought I wouldn't notice. I documented financial abuse, emotional manipulation, even the times they stole my savings under the guise of family assistance. Each recording, each photograph, each email was a thread I would later weave into a tapestry of undeniable truth. I was transforming my home into a fortress of justice, invisible yet impregnable. The day came when Claire and James thought they would spring their plan into action. I greeted them at the door with a warm smile, masking the storm inside me. They launched into their usual barrage of manipulative charm, suggesting I move into a comfortable retirement community, praising the property's potential in the hands of professionals like them. They assumed I would panic, that I would crumble. I played along, nodding slowly, pretending to consider their words. Once they were distracted, I led them to the basement, my sanctuary, the room where their ignorance had given me power. As they descended the stairs, I flicked on the lights to reveal walls covered in evidence. Photos of them rifling through my belongings, copies of financial statements proving unpaid loans, recordings of conversations where they ridiculed me, mocked my age, and plotted my displacement. They froze, their faces a mixture of confusion, disbelief, and terror. I said, "This," gesturing to the walls, "is the reality you've created. Every insult, every betrayal, every plan you thought I didn't see, it's all here." James stepped back, voice shaking. "Evelyn, this isn't real. You can't." "I can, and I did," I interrupted, my voice calm, deliberate. "In my own home, protecting myself is not illegal, it's survival." Then I pointed to the centerpiece, a laptop streaming everything live to a lawyer specializing in elder abuse, a social worker, and a journalist friend who had promised to cover the story if necessary. Clara lunged for the laptop, screaming that it was invasion of privacy, but I had already saved all files in multiple secure locations. "Too late," I said, my calmness slicing through their panic like a knife. Everything you've done, every cruel plan is recorded and witnessed. And next week, it goes public. The silence was deafening. They moved around the basement like ghosts, realizing the magnitude of their mistake. I watched them, not with hatred, but with the satisfaction of a woman reclaiming her life. I continued, "These are also your unpaid debts," pointing to bank statements, a total of $52,000. Family assistance, you called it. Theft, actually. Clara's face turned white. James fell into an old chair, his hands trembling. They begged, pleaded, tried to negotiate. I shook my head, each word I spoke precise and measured. For decades, I forgave you. I loved you. I sacrificed. But you are no longer the children I raised. You chose greed over love, cruelty over gratitude. This isn't about revenge. It's about survival for me. Then I revealed the final blow. My updated will, drafted that very morning. All my assets, my property, my savings, everything would go to foundations supporting women who had been silenced and ignored, to programs for elder independence, to initiatives that empowered those who had been exploited. Not a single penny goes to you, I said, as I watched as disbelief etched itself permanently into their features. They screamed, threatened legal battles, accused me of insanity. I smiled, guiding them to the door where police officers had already arrived to document the intimidation and destruction caused by their own hands. Clara and James, the children I had loved unconditionally, were now facing the consequences of their choices. Months later, I sat in my living room, the house safe, my possessions untouched, my dignity restored. The scandal had ruined their careers and marriages, as it should have. And yet, more than the revenge or the justice, I savored the most profound victory. I was free. Free from fear, free from manipulation, free from the chains of obligation that had once bound me to people who never truly cared. That night, as I poured myself a cup of tea, I reflected on the life I had reclaimed. I had learned that love without boundaries can be destructive, that forgiveness without accountability is weakness, and that sometimes the only way to truly survive is to prioritize oneself. I had lost my children, in the sense that I once knew them, but I had found myself. And for the first time in decades, I slept with peace, knowing that at 67, I had finally chosen me.